Facebook page. Oh, where is the stream? Why can I not pull it up? Let's see here. Wherever we're at. Are we live right now? Let me double check. There we go. Took a while to come up. All right. Hey, everybody. We are here, Dave and I, for Monday, August 17th, answering your Steelers questions for the next hour. Just give me 1 second here while I get the link sent out to where it needs to go, including to Dave. And while you're here, Dave, how you doing?
Doing good. Happy Monday. I'm gonna
Happy
make it, I
Monday.
think.
All
So
right.
another day. I think I'm gonna make it.
There you go. And it's the first day of padded practice in training camp. The training camp's been going on for a few weeks now, but today kind of feels like the start of it. Fortunately, it feels like we're not going to learn a whole lot, and that's what we've been afraid of for a little while, Dave. And I think our fears came true today.
Yeah, it started off looking pretty good. I even had it up on one of the TVs in here, thinking, okay, we're gonna, I'm gonna be able to sit back and maybe the Steelers aren't gonna let us down, and we're gonna have a good production here. I got spoiled because I watched on. I got this audio running in my head here. Okay, let me turn that down. And I don't know if you did as well too. The Cleveland Browns were live streaming their practice on Sunday, and I was watching with a lot of a lot of I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, envy, I guess, and
Mm-hmm.
thinking, man, they sure are covering a lot. And obviously, you get to what the Steelers were doing today, and their group. It started off great. The problem is that right when they got done, with the kind of the stretching portion of practice, there it went. That was the end of it there, and kind of to be expected. I probably gave him too much credit trying to expect a little bit more than that. But yeah, Alex, it doesn't look like we're going to get much out of him this year.
Nope. Yeah, it's bad when you're jealous of Cleveland. That's a sentence we don't say too often. And the way you framed it at the beginning, it looked good at the beginning. That's what your like NASCAR reference. It looked good until the wheels came off.
Oh yeah,
We were running good.
yeah. The Ford Focus was running great today until we lost the engine, right?
Yeah, that's how it felt like today. But we'll answer your questions here in a second. We have one from Todd here who came in pre live stream. We'll answer that in a moment. I do want to do some quick housekeeping though, since a little bit of camp news we do know is injury related, as you see on screen right now. Some Steelers not practicing today. That included Chris Wormley with a lower body, David Castro, James Washington. Mike Tomlin deemed all those injuries minor and day today. And Marquise Pouncey was excused by Tomlin. Sounds like a personal matter. I don't believe he was even at Heinz Field today. So those are your Steelers injuries, minor, luckily, and we know there were some major injuries going across the league. So far, so good for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, one down. You keep your fingers crossed, boy. You look at some of the names across the league. Couple of defensive tackles. Javon Hargrave, even
Hmm.
one of them with an injured pec. It doesn't look like it's going to be season ending for Hargrave, but it looks like it's going to keep him sidelined for most of, if not, the rest of training camp and maybe even into the start of the season there. So we wish him well. Gerald McCoy tore something, going to be out for the year. This is the kind of time of year right now where you just
Hmm.
kind of grit your teeth and just hope for the best, I think. But as far as the Steelers missing, Chris Wormley, we kind of saw that coming, right? We're having to play Blues Clues
Yeah.
with whatever the Steelers give us as far as pictures and video go, and I think it was pretty evident that Wormley for the last couple of days at least has not worked. And we were waiting to get to Monday to find out for sure if indeed he does have some sort of injury. And we got that information earlier in the day. It's lower body. We do not know what's going on exactly with David DeCastro, with him or with who was the other one?
James Washington.
James Washington. You just hope to hear Mike Tomlin talk. Those are kind of minor in nature. And as you mentioned with Pouncey, and to hear kind of Tomlin frame it, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe Pouncey misses another day or two. Probably
Hmm.
something personal going on here. He had to take care of. So that obviously is leading to Stefan Wisniewski getting the starting center snaps to open up the padded portion of training camp. And man, who's your right guard? Is it
That's a
Kevin
good
Dotson?
question.
I don't think we've got confirmation. We're speculating, and we're going to be doing a lot of that for the next several weeks there. But hey, probably not a bad thing to get Kevin Dotson some early training camp work at right guard there.
Yeah, more reps, valuable reps that would be much needed. So it might have been him, could have been Hassenauer. We do not know, unfortunately. And Richard, yeah, just answered the question. It was Wisniewski coming in for Pouncey today as first team center. I want to give a quick shout out to those in the chat. Got 30 strong here already. Again, we're here for an hour to answer any and all of your Steelers questions. We have Mutated Genome. We have Todd, Jason, Lynn Wins, James, Brenton, Xander, Ken, Patrick, James, ODJ, Mark Leslie, Richard, Russ Obenstein, Juan, and I think that is the group so far. So thank you guys so much for being here. We both appreciate it.
Happy Monday, people. Thanks for joining us.
All right, let's get into the questions and we'll sprinkle some of the camp news throughout the stream as well. Todd Williams says, "Hello, guys. Hope your families are safe and well. I appreciate and respect your film study. Thank you, Todd. With that being said, what are you seeing from Terrell Edmunds? Is he on track, in your opinion? Thanks." So I think to start, obviously he's not a bust. He's not Jarvis Jones. He's not Artie Burns, but there needs to be more progression. That's really going to happen this year. 2020 is such a critical, crucial year for Edmunds. You want to see more playmaking, more splash plays as a tackler. He's improved his physicality. Is not necessarily an issue, but you want to see more of the impact plays with the ball in the air. And it's funny you mentioned that, Todd, because Steelers.com, they had tweeted out a photo gallery today. And one picture kind of caught my eye. I'll pull it up here for you guys that I took, or screen captured, I should say. And it's this play on Vance McDonald. When I first saw this, I was like, "This is a great play by Terrell Edmunds," because he's playing up through the hand, trying to separate the hands of Vance. And I assume this was an incompletion, but I think based on the tea leaves from media reports, Vance still somehow caught this ball. So that was like perfectly sums up Edmunds, where he's in position to make the play, he's got good technique, and the dude just can't finish it. So ball skills, ball skills, ball skills. That's the biggest thing you want to see Edmunds improve upon in 2020.
Absolutely, and I once again we don't know. We haven't learned a lot, obviously, during the offseason when it comes to Edmonds. Everything that we've done so far is based off of, what we learned last season from Edmonds and all. But obviously, and look, we've already heard, who was it? Terrell Austin talk about kind of some of the same things we've talked about since last season. How got to make more plays. Period.
Yeah, for sure. Has to make more plays. I mean, the guy's got one career interception, and that's just not an acceptable number right now for a guy who's played as much and as often as he has. So, yeah, the report was that the advance had caught a long pass over Terrell Edmunds. I assume this is it. Again, not being they're not getting to see it makes it a little more difficult to judge, but I assume that Edmunds in position to make a play. Unfortunately, could not finish. That kind of encapsulates where he's at in his career right now. All right, let's see here. Mutated Genome says Chris Fowler, Kirk Herbstreit to call Steelers week one Monday Night Football against the Giants. Good choice. I really like those guys. Yeah, and Louis Riddick, I think is there too. So I think an upgrade over last year, though that bar was very, very low.
Yeah, Riddick's not doing. Riddick's on the other team doing the second.
Oh, is he?
Doing the late game. Yeah,
Okay.
it's Fowler and Herbstreit combo doing the Steelers Giants game.
All right, good deal. Well, either way, an upgrade over last year, nonetheless. James Naylor, really wish Alex could have been at first pad at practice. I wish could, James. I wish too, James, that I could be there. I'll be there next year though, so just root for that. Let's see here. What else do we have? Juan says Denier playing more this year. I had a video this morning on Steelers Depot that kind of outlined that position battle for the number 3 spot. I mean, he was kind of in a rotation with Chick last year. Could he be in a rotation with Highsmith this year? I think that's possible. I think to begin the year, though, I think Denier is going to be the number 3 outside linebacker, the first man up, because Highsmith is a rookie and skipper. The special teams concerns are still there in terms of will they play him. So I think to at least begin the year, he'll have the opportunity if he plays well to be able to keep it. If he struggles, then Highsmith may work his way into the fold throughout the season. Lynn wins. Who are your 4 running backs making it this year? Samuels, White, Smallwood. I think on my last roster prediction, I went Samuels. You're going Smallwood. I think it could go either way. I think you don't want to discount Kerrith White either. But I think you're making a really good case for Wendell Smallwood, Dave.
Yeah, we'll see. To read the pool report, which is dangerous to do, which is going to be dangerous to do from here on out. Evidently, didn't have that great of a showing in the backs on backers, the initial backs on backers drill today. I'm not reading too much into that because I didn't see it, and I didn't have you see it. So I think the biggest thing when you look at is you go back and you look at the tape on Smallwood, his pass protection so far during his career, it's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now he is a little bit better of a cut protector than he is standing guys up overall. But Look, it could be one of several, be that fourth guy. And as I like to say a lot of times, these things have a funny way of working themselves out. But just playing across the board, if I was to handicap this thing, personally, I see Smallwood as the better all-around player, and that means running the football, catching the football, special teams, all of it. That's where I'm at now. Does that mean it couldn't go in a different direction? No. I mean, obviously Samuels is a carryover and probably going to be hard to knock off there. And then, as you mentioned, Kareth White, you can't discount him either. But I mean, if I had to pick right now, or what I did the other day on my initial 53-man roster, I have Smallwood.
Yeah, and even if he struggled in backs on backers today, as you said, he's a better cut blocker, and there's no cutting in the backs on backers still to keep players safe, and he's going to be better in pass pro than Gareth White or Jalen Samuel. Like that's just the reality of it because neither of those guys, Samuels or White, are particularly good in that phase of the game. So should be an interesting battle though. I think it could really go either way at this point. Patrick Donovan asks, will y'all be doing the live feed during the season? My goal and my hope is to do so. Obviously, there could be some potential confliction there. Week one, for example, with the Monday night game, I think I can squeeze this in before kickoff. But just stay tuned because things may shift throughout week to week. But we'll definitely try to do the live stream because we've done it for a while now. I want to kind of keep it going, especially once there's actually things to talk about and discuss with you guys. A bunch of drama. It's a great time to be alive. Awesome work, guys. Thank you very much. ODG is talking about us getting credentialed. Yeah, I don't think they would have let us in this year, but I think it's just a one-off thing. Hopefully, get back out there next year at camp, and there's definitely an advantage to us not being credentialed in a normal training camp setting because you can sit in the bleachers and have your notes next to you and be able to write down, as opposed to if you were standing, it'd be almost impossible to take the notes that we take. So there are upsides to not being credentialed, but we hopefully we'll be back at St. Vincent next season. Brenton717, Alex, if you were at camp, what matchup would you most want to watch in backs on backers? Dave, same question. Thanks so much, guys. Well, as Tomlin alluded to, he wanted to see a lot of the rookies today. I went back through my camp notes um, last year, and the first rep of backs on backers last year was Benny Snell. I forget who he was going against, but Tomlin wanted to see the rookies right away. So just to see those guys, how they, because it's such a welcome to the NFL moment, especially given the offseason lack of reps they've had and it's throughout the spring. So to see guys like McFarland, see guys like Highsmith be able to work, I think is always kind of a highlight, just how rookies approach that really like this is it. I'm in the NFL type moment. So it's actually kind of what Tomlin talked about today about giving those young guys a lot of rep just to kind of see how they would respond and if they would rise to the moment.
Why don't you read them the couple of quotes from today?
Yeah, let's see here. We have Tomlin talking about backs on backers. He's saying younger guys like McFarland, and we're going to want to see the same thing on the other side of the ball. You might have saw an unusual number of reps from Alex Highsmith. We realize that reps is the platform for learning, so they're going to get reps, and it's their job to adjust and to show rapid improvement. Tomlin did caution that he likes to see backs on backers the second time around when they do it later in camp because the first time is just so emotionally charged, and guys kind of getting a feel for how this thing works. It's pretty rare for teams to do backs on backers in college, and I think even in the NFL. So he says he's more excited to see it next time than he is what happened today.
Yeah, and I think that would be one drill that I definitely would be interested to see, especially if I could get close to it. I know sometimes where you sit, usually out at training camp, and they put the ring around those
Yeah,
guys. It's probably
schoolyard
hard for you.
circle. Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably hard for you to catch any of that. I think that and probably the one-on-one receiver versus defensive back drills would probably be fun.
hmm I was able to catch backs on backers last year. You just have to. The key is you got to sit high up in the bleachers. You got to get there real early that day because you need to be high up to see over everybody. A little trick of the trade. Let's see. Richard Hudspeth, if tight end can't get the ball production, maybe should focus on hitting harder. That was RC's formula. Not quite sure what that is in reference to be honest, Richard. Um, I think it's with Edmunds. Oh, Terrell Edmunds' ball production maybe focused on hitting harder. That was Clark's. Okay, I'm working it out now. Yeah, that's one way to do it. Separate player from ball. But I also just want to see him be able to get his hands on the football too. Kevin Ball 16. Do the Steelers keep 3 or 4 or 5 outside linebackers? Feels like someone needs to break away from the bottom of the pack. I agree with that last comment. You want to see someone step up and separate themselves. They're going to keep at least 4. I think 5 is more likely because they're probably going to keep 4 inside linebackers. So that keeping 9 total, you got 4 inside, give you 5 outside linebackers. That's kind of the way I look at it.
That would make sense. 9 in total from where we sit here right now. And obviously, once again, unfortunately, these things have a way of working themselves out. But you would think as we sit here right now, barring nothing significant changing, you would think that that it would be 5 outside, 4 inside.
Hmm. For sure, I agree. And the fourth and the fifth would be Ola and Tuzar Skipper, kind of being that Skipper. I think being the fifth guy that's more on the bubble, but probably to me inside looking out right now. Patrick Donovan, haven't seen a write up yet. I probably just missed it, but what's your thoughts on the D tackle that signed with Green Bay? Cam is much better, so got to think his contract is more. We actually did write about this. Kenny Clark, and Dave, you can explain this because you wrote up the article, but you think that Hayward should get a little bit more, but definitely in the Kenny Clark range.
Look, I think Kenny Clark is a fine nose tackle, defensive tackle in this league. Even so, what he got paid was a. Let's see. Let me pull up my notes here on this. His new money average is 17.5 million, and that puts him up in the top 5 right now. Of highest paid interior defensive lineman in the league. I know people are looking at Cam Hayward's age and this, that, and the other, but really, I think the value of Cam Hayward, and it's really has not, none of this has changed, recently. I think his number is what in between somewhere like 16.75 and 17 point, just a hair above what Kenny Clark just got there when you talk about new money average. And really, I've been kind of stuck on an 80 million total number as part of a 4-year extension, which would make the deal 5 years. Cam Hayward is owed $9.5 million in 2020 this season. That's considered old money. So if you take that 9.5 million and subtract it from 80 million, that's your new money. And if you divide that by 4, that would give you your new money average there. Now, I think that the Steelers could get into a deal with him with as little as maybe 16 million fully guaranteed, and I think Cam would be doing him a little bit of favor by going that route as well too. Will this deal get done? I mean, that's been the big talking. That's what we've been talking about a lot so far this offseason here. He's the one player that you would think if they extend a player this offseason, it's going to be him. But still, there's no guarantee that gets done here. Now, the biggest hangup here is really the second year.
Hmm.
With the uncertainty in the cap. I think if not for this pandemic, this deal would already be done. But I think a fair shame on them if they ask Cam to play for $9.5 million this year. That's number one.
Hmm.
Number two, shame on Cam Hayward if he takes less than, let's say, $16.5 million, really less than 16.667 or whatever JJ Watt's making average yearly value. Shame on him if he takes less than that. Will they get it done? They got 28 days to figure it out. I know what Cam said today. I know he said it takes 2 to tango. There's really no movement so far in all this. I still like the chances of this getting done.
I do too, and I looked it up specifically, referenced this in the last podcast. So a lot of these deals have not gotten done until September, even well into September. Whether you're talking Joe Hayden, David DeCastro, Stephon Tua, Trey Polamalu's happened before getting on the plane to week 1, so still some time here to work with. Week 1's not till September 14th, so there's still almost a month to go, or 3 weeks to go before the season starts. Still a lot of time here, but yeah, to get the quotes here, Hayward telling reporters today, I love being a Pittsburgh Steeler, but it takes 2 to tango. I love being here, but we'll just have to see what happens. There's a couple more weeks of the season. All I can focus on is what I control, and we'll leave it at that. I still strongly believe Hayward will have an extension by the time this team takes the field against the Giants week 1.
You can pull up my sample contract real quick,
Mhm.
friend, and show that to the people real quick. How I kind of, and look, this goes along kind of way that the Steelers do structure contracts here with the cash flow. I've provided the cash flow, the whole 9 yards in there for people to look at this. And I know people are saying, but he's 31. Do you really want to spend that kind of money? I mean, that's what it's going to come down to. And once again, I think if not for this pandemic and the uncertainty in 2021 as far as the cap goes, I think this is already done and probably done at the number that I have there. Obviously, I think the two sides want to get it done. I don't know about you, Alex, but I'm having a hard time picturing what this defensive line might look like in 2021 if Cam Hayward's not a part of it.
Mhm. It would be weird for sure. It's just hard to even have the sight of and the thought of Hayward not being in black and gold. No, it's happened before. I mean, heck, Mike Webster, Franco Harris, we've seen some of those all-time great Steelers not finish their career in Pittsburgh, but more often than not, they have. Hines Ward's a great example of that. So I think they find a way to get it done with Hayward. It may not be until very late in the process, but it's going to happen before week 1.
And here's the thing, and I wrote about this the other day as well too. People can read this on SteelersDepot.com as well. They are already up. Obviously they're up against the cap, and yeah, technically they're like what number did I have in there? 4.1 million. Let me read it off the sheet right here. Technically, right now, I have them at about, I think it's 3.9 under the cap. The NFLPA is behind on a couple of moves here right now here. But let's say they're 4 million underneath the cap. Well, you still got to afford a 52nd and 53rd player on the roster. All right. You still have to afford up to a 16-man practice squad. And just at the minimum numbers alone, salary alone on practice squad, that's another 2 point something million. So, technically this team has realistically about $500,000 in cap space if things play out exactly the way we think it's going to play out right now. Now, obviously, they can't go into the season with just $500,000 in cap space. So how are they going to free up cap space? Well, one way is to give Cam Hayward an extension where you free up maybe, let's say, $1.5 million to $2 million to maybe even as much as $3 million in cap space, depending on the deal and the structure. The other way is to actually restructure somebody, either David DeCastro or Stephon Tuitt. That's just another reason, another kind of signal, maybe why there's a reason to think that maybe an extension gets done with Cam here in the next 28 days.
Yeah, that's a great point. It will help provide some short-term relief and lock up a great player long-term. And I think it's a win-win for player and team in that scenario. Kevin Ball, 16. I believe that Gilbert will be the primary backup at inside linebacker, but what do the Steelers have depth behind him? It is Robert Spillane, core special teamer, who did a great job replacing Gilbert after his back injury that sent him to IR last season. And if they really get, light at inside linebacker with injuries, they probably just run more dime defense and spin down someone like Terrell Edmunds over playing someone like Robert Spillane, to be honest with you. Lynn wins. Last one, Devlin Hodges or Paxton Lynch. I think we're both leaning Lynch right now, but I think the odds of them keeping 4 quarterbacks, the 4th on the practice squad, now that it's 16 players, is pretty good, just given the COVID pandemic climate right now.
And although we're both kind of leaning Paxton, it's really only based off of what the organization has kind of said about him really since the end of last season, because we obviously haven't seen him play or practice. It's more of maybe a pedigree, arm strength kind of maybe advantage that Paxton might have. And also, look, I mean, down the stretch, Devlin didn't necessarily play well. On top of it, there could it go either way? Absolutely, it could.
Sure.
Absolutely. I'm not married to either one of them, really, when it comes to that. And as Alex said, I wouldn't be shocked if whoever lost that battle wound up on the practice squad.
Right, exactly. RMC, can you summarize the practice squad qualifications specifically where it would be important to the Steelers quarterback, running back, etc.? Thank you. 16-man practice squad this year. There are, I think, 6 exemptions for veteran players that would normally qualify based on accrued seasons, and I don't remember specifically all the language there because it gets a little bit messy, but 16-man practice squad, and that basically means you're probably keeping at least one of essentially every position just to protect yourself versus injury or illness is kind of how I look at it.
And I think you can protect, what is it, 4 a week?
Is
I
it a
think
week?
yeah, I think you could protect 4 on the practice squad a week, and then obviously guys going up and down can be, I think, clear waivers. What was it, twice or something? I mean, there's so many little intricacies involved in this now, and also you're more veteran. You got to be careful too. The more veteran guys, I think those guys earn up to 12,000 a week
That's a good point.
is a salary there. So, I just talked about the, planning ahead for the salary cap and a 16 man practice squad. That's based on just keeping 16 non-veteran players, and odds are obviously good that they're going to keep a couple of guys, with a little bit more experience that might qualify for that higher practice squad salary. So that's another thing that you got to factor in there. So truth be told, I mean, this team, this team really is going to have to do something. I mean, there's no two ways around it. They're going to have to create cap space in the next 4 weeks via restructure, extension, or both.
Yeah.
Kind of deal there. So, and as Alex said, I think you're going to probably see him keep damn near one of every position, probably maybe even a couple of wide receivers.
Hmm.
Uh,
Offensive lineman, you probably want to stash.
Right, offensive lineman, probably at least one inside. Being as how you're probably only going to be keeping four on your 53-man roster of inside linebackers. You're definitely going to probably keep one of those. Probably at least one cornerback, probably a safety. So yeah, just go around and probably two defensive linemen, right?
Hmm.
As well, and two offensive linemen. So you start working through it, and you fill up that 16 pretty quick. And especially if you and look, I had him keeping an extra punter
Right.
just in case because of the COVID and all like that. That's a possibility you got to consider.
Yeah, so you can check out our rosters on Steelers Depot. Just type in roster prediction. You can kind of see what our examples of a practice squad look like to give you an idea for how this thing might shake out. Joseph
What
Fall. Okay.
what might alter our predictions at this point? Because Lord knows it's not going to be based off of anything observed at practice.
Hmm.
More than likely, I guess really injuries more than anything will help shape our 53-man rosters between now and the start of final cutdown day.
Exactly. Injury and illness are really the only two major things, or the team making some move with a trade, someone in, someone coming out. I mean, other than that, it's not going to be easy for us to have a different version based on what appears to be very limited information during training camp. Joseph Allen, should Bud Dupree be released after the season? Well, he's on the franchise tag. It is a 1 year deal, so he'll be a free agent after the season. So releasing him is not an option, Joseph.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about firing him. He'll quit anyway. No, no. As Alex said, he will be an unrestricted free agent, so there is no releasing that needs to go on. He'll just hit free agency and he'll sign with another team, and that'll be that. So there is no releasing that will go on.
Sean, American Patriot. I saw Stefan Wisniewski snapping to Ben. Yes, Wisniewski worked as first team center today. Marquise Pouncey excused absence from Mike Tomlin, as Dave said. That may extend tomorrow. We'll see. But Wisniewski first team center. No surprise there with Pouncey being out. If Pouncey were to go down in game or get suspended like last year, Wisniewski would be your next man up at center. Jamal Curtis, have you watched the Steelers YouTube video, The Standard? Some cool locker room and film stuff. Fun to see Ben running the stairs. I watched the thing they played before the training camp live today. I don't know if that was that video or not. Maybe it was, but I'll have to check that out specifically. Jamal, have you seen the standard video that they've done, Dave?
Yeah, yeah. I've gone through a
Okay.
bunch of them.
And it was
Yeah.
it was informative or entertaining.
Yeah, look, I mean, yeah, it's something different, that's for sure. But I want football.
Yeah, gonna have to wait a little while. Ken Nedmeyer, I think I butchered that last name. I apologize. What's up, guys? Happy Monday. For a fun question, if you could bring back any past Steeler to contribute to the upcoming season, who would it be? Thanks for keeping me entertained at work, guys. Man, I mean,
Follow.
yeah, I was gonna say that the defense gets richer, but it's hard not to go with Troy. Even to have a Heinz Ward type would be fantastic, or Heath Miller. Give me Heath Miller at tight end. I think Heath or Troy might be my option here. Patrick Donovan next year with no Connor. Did I miss a? I thought I missed a question somewhere. Let me go back and scroll up here and look. Maybe I thought there was a question about Juju or Connor.
What do you
Um,
think about what Juju said today?
yeah, obviously he's just saying the right thing, not talking about
He's saying the
contract
right
and
things,
future.
right?
Right. I mean,
Right.
so he's not saying a whole lot, which is kind of how to say the right thing. But yeah, I'm still more optimistic on his chances to returning. I totally recognize that this may be his last year. I just think the tone of the conversation is going to shift after this season. If he plays the way I think he's going to play, which is going to be much closer to 2018, it'll be the math is still the math, but it'll be harder to make the case to move on from Juju if he plays like he did 2 years ago.
Even then, it's going to be hard. Look, I mean, this is a team that, and I put this on. I mean, really under Kevin Colbert, and you have to go back even further than that. When is the last time a Steelers wide receiver broke the bank with his second contract? And really technically, and for people saying Hines Ward, no, it wasn't Hines Ward, because Hines Ward, if you remember, really signed a kind of middle of the road deal for him way back in what was it, 90, 91, whatever. And remember, he was a restricted free agent at the time because this was all pre the 2011 CBA, where what the Steelers used to do is players outside the first round, they'd sign to 3-year contracts. Okay.
Mhm.
And that way they would be restricted free agents, after their third year, and they kind of have the player in a little bit of a bind, if you will. Do I sign a, do I take this tender and then maybe potentially get the franchise tag the year after, those kind of things. So Hines Ward really took a real, for at the time was considered really a modest deal on what was his second contract with the Steelers. Now obviously he cashed in a little bit better than that on his third contract. And even going back to Antonio Brown, on his second contract, it was the same situation with him. Remember, you had Mike Wallace, technically, supposedly was offered that money first, and Mike said, "No, nah, I'm good. I'm going to see what happens after this year as an unrestricted free agent if you guys don't tag me." So they turned around and supposedly gave that same deal to Antonio. And even though it was a big deal at the time, it wasn't top of the market by any stretch of the imagination. And really, because at the time, because Antonio was going to be what that was Antonio's what third year. It was once again it was before the 2011 CBA when he came into the league. So he really, because of him scheduled to be a restricted free agent, he had no choice really but to take that deal at that time. So technically, Juju would really break a lot of traditions here by cashing in even on the franchise tag, which is something we've never seen, with the Steelers here in the wide receiver position. So a lot of historical stuff, and obviously the Steelers, have gone against history,
Mhm.
with the whole Minka thing, and drafted a cornerback in the first round with
Right.
Artie a couple years ago. But there's just and then then just look at the cap climate, what that's supposed to be in 2021. On top of it, there are a lot of indicators already that regardless of the season that Juju has, that he, 2020 might be it for him in
Mhm.
Pittsburgh. And I know a lot of people don't like to hear that, so don't shoot the messenger here. But that's what the tea leaves say.
Right, you're not saying it from a place where he doesn't deserve to get paid or shouldn't get paid. It's just a math problem, an equation in your mind. I think the history is less relevant because I don't think there's a real staunch principle that says that they wouldn't want to resign Juju because they don't want to pay receivers X amount of money or whatever the case is. But it's just a math problem, and there's no question about that for sure. I just think if Juju has something closer to 2018, which I think he'll do this year, it's going to be tough to say let's let that guy go while having been for the last year or two. We'll see.
Boy, whatever that cap number winds up being, franchise tag number, that's going to be a mighty tough number to work around in March.
Right. Sure, sure, absolutely. Let me get back to the questions here. Patrick Donovan, next year with no Connor, could you see a backfield like the Saints had a few years ago with Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara? This is Snell and McFarland being those two guys. I think that's pretty rich in terms of trying to compare it to those two guys. But point taken. Yeah, it'll be very interesting. I think to answer it succinctly, I think if Connor's gone, they do the old draft a mid-round running back again with one of those fourth-round picks that they're going to have next season. That's kind of the way I look at it with Snell, McFarland, and a mid-round rookie kind of being the wouldn't call it three-headed monster, but three options is kind of the way I kind of gauge it right now. Richard Hudspeth, is it crazy to give Ben another 2 years to use him as a bank? Ben or Dave, you've talked about this before about trying to work Ben's deal and extension possibility. Shed some insight there for us.
It's all up to him, and it's all up to how he plays. Obviously, I mean, if he has the comeback season, and that arm holds up fine, and you think both sides think that he can play a couple more years, and yeah, you absolutely, I think, need to seriously consider an extension by the time his roster bonus is due in March. I mean, that's when it would get done, would be right before his roster bonus is due. And obviously there's going to be the need for cap space on top of it. The question is what would the figures look like? How much of a discount, if any, would Ben take? How much guaranteed money would it take? Would Ben be interested in just kind of a faux extension? I doubt he would, where you just basically you add on 4 years to the deal, you turn his roster bonus and a large chunk, as much as you can, per the CBA, into a signing bonus to lower his cap hit by the 14 million or whatever that way. I don't see Ben doing that. There's going to be some new money involved, and if they did do that faux extension, I would expect that second year, which would be let's see. I guess it would be if he did the restructure next offseason, 2022. I expect that salary would be astronomically high, and for Ben to add to require it to be fully guaranteed on top of it. And is it possible? Yeah, but I think long and short to answer the question, you see how he plays this year. And
Hmm.
obviously, if he plays well and if he's up to playing at least a couple more years, I think you'd look at some sort of a contract extension come the end of February, beginning of March. That would help solve a lot of little problems, especially when it comes to the cap situation in 2021.
Right, one step at a time with Ben. Let's get through this year with a healthy, productive Ben, and we'll consider it a good problem to have with his, contractual future. Jamal Curtis, I was expecting the NFL to explode with cases right now, but surprisingly, it seems all teams barely have any cases. Yeah, very low case numbers right now. I think the positive test rate's around 1.5%. There's only like 20 or 30 players on, COVID reserve list right now. All four Steelers who had been on that list have been activated from it in about 7 to 10 days, so that's good. But like baseball, once you actually start the season, you're traveling, you're playing against other teams, there's more risk, more exposure. That's the true test of seeing if numbers will rise or not. They probably will. How much? That'll be the question.
Yeah, all it takes is one stupid decision by one player to
Yep.
probably try to sneak his girlfriend in, or
Like Seattle,
or
that Seattle corner.
or out on the road, go to the Walmart for snacks in the middle of the night, whatever,
Or a
So
certain place in Atlanta that apparently athletes frequent.
yeah, yeah, gentlemen's club as they
Yeah,
like to
there you
call
go.
those things. But yeah, well, I mean, look, knock on wood, we'll see. I mean, I don't think you can predict this thing.
Nope.
That's for dang sure.
Yep, one thing we can predict is that we cannot predict it. Nero the King. So, Alex and Dave, am I the only one that thought Cam didn't sound very confident a deal is going to get done? No, I mean, Hayward certainly seems to not be confident with it. It's easier for us to talk about his money and his future and say he'll get it than his situation because it's probably a lot more stressful for him than it is for us. But I still think, given all the things we've said, that this team does deals at the very last second, even into September. That's been commonplace recently, and just the reality that he's a star. They take care of the stars. They keep their stars. He's in the prime of his career still. It's just hard to see a deal not getting done. I can't guarantee it, and Hayward certainly doesn't make you feel better about it, but I do think it ends up happening.
I sensed more frustration more than anything. More of this, dang,
Hmm.
if this pandemic wasn't going on, that there were the plans were to have evidently to have talks, run throughout this thing, and obviously the pandemic stymied that right from the get go there. I mean, look, he's not the one dealing with it. I'm sure he's got his agent that handles all that, and I know. Is he disappointed right now that he probably doesn't have a deal? Yeah, especially in the last couple weeks too. You got Chris Jones getting paid, you got the young kid Kenny Clark with Green Bay getting paid, and you got Cam way down there at number 20,
Hmm.
20 on the list. Heck, Javon Hargrave and Stephon Tuitt all technically have average yearly values higher than Cam, right? That's just another thing, that I point to says, man, how can, and I know a contract's a contract, blah blah blah, and people are going to say, well, Cam's already got his money and this, that, and the other. Even so, I find it kind of a slap in Cam's face to expect him to play for $9.5 million in 2020. Is it the end of the world? Absolutely not. But and if you turn around thinking you're going to maybe franchise tag Cameron Hayward for, let's say the number comes in as low as, let's say for some god known reason, 12 million would tag number for that position because of the pandemic and impacts on the cap. Can you really expect the man to play for a total of, let's say, $22 million over 2 seasons after the kind of seasons that he has
Hmm.
had? I say the answer is no. So look, I mean, is he disappointed? Like, once again, I viewed from kind of his demeanor and the context today as him being just more frustrated than anything. 28 days is a long time, though. We'll see what
Hmm.
happens.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a good point. Frustration is probably an apt word to use for that, and probably just frustration, not just for the fact he doesn't have a deal, but the stagnation, there hasn't been any movement. If they were working towards a contract and felt like they were getting closer, he may feel a little more optimistic about things. But the fact that they have not really seen, according to him at least, have not really had any sort of movement, any sort of talks, that's probably really frustrating to have all that uncertainty right now. But again, things can and usually do move pretty quickly as deadlines approach, and the deadline's still a little ways away.
What's his floor value?
No,
I've got it at
you pegged it.
16.7, I think, somewhere around in there.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know,
I'm with you.
I mean, I just can't see him taking. I mean, would he take less than that? I don't know. We'll find out. But I don't think he should or should be expected to. The way
Hmm.
he's played.
Patrick Donovan, another cap question. I still don't fully understand salary cap, but I learn more each podcast. Thank you, Dave. My question regards the Chiefs. They had $171 in cap space with the recent contracts they gave out. Did they just backload the contracts? If so, basically won the contracts, right?
Yeah, look, I mean, you got a guy in Patrick Mahomes that took no new money this year, none, no new money. Okay, he kind of traded that in lieu of rolling guarantees later on in his deal. That's going to make him extremely hard to get rid of. I hope he lives up to it and plays like he continues to play for a while because they are married to him
Hmm.
right now because of the way these rolling guarantees vest in his deal, but. His cap number didn't move because he didn't take any new money this year, okay? Which is a rare thing, all right? So score one for the Chiefs for getting him to do that. You got a guy in Chris Jones, no guaranteed money in the deal. It's pay as you go with him as well too, and essentially what his franchise tag number was going to be. Now people forget they had to place a franchise tag on him first, so that was a need of to accommodate that early on in the offseason. But once again, no technically new money in the first year of the deal after being given a tag there. So now once again, the way his guarantees go, he's going to be hard to cut for the Chiefs. So they're married to him from almost a guaranteed standpoint moving forward. As far as Kelsey goes, I thought Joel Corey did an excellent job of breaking this down recently on his podcast. And if you haven't listened to that, you need to search that out and find it. He talks about the George Kittle deal and the Travis Kelsey deal and why the George Kittle deal was an A for Kittle and his agent, and the Kelsey deal was an F for Kelsey and his agent. Once again, Kelsey sacrificed cash flow and first year new money just basically to for a number that says he's highest paid tight end in the league there. So they technically, I guess you could say, the Chiefs got all these guys to buy in on this year and the no new money, which left their cap numbers intact. Now, it'd be interesting to watch them navigate. 2021. Now, 2021, I think they're still going to be technically okay overall, but on into 2022 and 2023. So there wasn't any real magic that happened there, other than they getting the players to agree to deals where the player, not getting any new money in technically the first year of the deal, which is now, and in sacrificing fully guarantees and vesting dates throughout the deal outside of Kelsey. Kelsey's deal is awful for him. I mean, he no way that agent should be fired for letting him sign
Mm.
that deal on that. But that's the way they got it done with that was no new money, and especially in first year of the deals. And it's foolish to expect a team like the Steelers to do something similar to that, because just not how they do business, and the players that they're potentially dealing with here would be absolutely stupid to do deals like that as well.
Yeah, and it's just the realization that the cap can be massaged in so many different ways, and that the cap is a lie, and teams can make it work if they're able to negotiate it out. Donald Nolan, Duck showed more as an undrafted rookie being thrown into the fire compared to Paxton being a first round pick that had all the opportunity to be a starter. To be fair, John Elway in Denver pulled the plug on Paxton Lynch pretty quickly, but point taken about the career arcs for those guys. Yeah, it could go either way. And to be fair to Duck again, he had a really good camp last year. So this is a guy that had a really good camp last year, which no one expected, myself included. And now he's gone through the regular season, and I'm sure camp looks a whole lot different to him this year, a whole lot slower than last year, where he performed well. So you could reasonably expect him to perform again well this summer. So it should be a good battle. Again, I think it's kind of moot because whoever loses probably stays on the team with a practice squad spot. But they just like pedigree, and that's why I give a slight edge to Paxton Lynch.
I agree, and plus, look, I mean, we're sitting here splitting hairs about at best a number 3 quarterback. Period.
hmm Well, it ended up
Period.
being more
Period.
relevant than we thought last year, but
Yeah,
hopefully it
yeah,
doesn't
and
get
and,
to that
and
point.
and hopefully we don't get to that point. But
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is. Both these guys are at best number 3 quarterbacks, in my opinion.
K. Jackson, Pittsburgh. Do you think that Randy Fichtner is really appreciative to get offensive input? It would be really nice to add new wrinkles to our offense to better utilize our players. Yeah, it feels like there are a couple new wrinkles. Again, not being at camp doesn't give us the window we normally have. But no, I think Fichtner is appreciative of it. He's not someone that seems to be selfish. I think Tomlin actually recently made comments about that it's an unselfish coaching staff, and they don't really care where ideas come from. They just want to get good, talented people in the door to work with them. So I think he's appreciative of any opportunity to work with him and to add a new bit of juice to the offense, which they sorely need.
You know what I bet Randy Fichtner's appreciative of?
What's that?
Health.
Yeah, good health. Getting his quarterback back, getting his running back back, getting his wide receiver back.
Yeah, I bet that's what he's appreciative of
All
because
right. Makes him look good.
I mean, look, I mean, you can't make chicken salad out of, well, you know how that goes.
Yeah.
But look, I mean, we came out of 2018. Look, the red zone, fantastic, and if not for that offense having to travel so much yardage because of special teams and defensive play. We'd probably be singing their praises even more from 2018. But yet we get into 2019, and because you have backup quarterbacks and running backs and wide receivers, I mean, for God's sakes, Tony Brooks James got carries last year. I mean, what? I mean, come on. I mean,
hmm
let's cut some slack where some slack needs to be cut there. I mean, you went into the season with Xavier Grimble as your backup tight end, for God's sakes. James Conner was, look, if you look at Conner and Juju's numbers overall before both of them went down, they were on pace to have pretty decent seasons overall. And
hmm
obviously, you lost Ben 6 quarters into this thing. So, before we go pulling any rip cords here, real quick, I mean, let's watch and see how this thing transpires with these guys in the first quarter of the season when he got some more pedigree moving parts in this thing.
Yeah, it was tough when you had, Duck Hodges throwing to Tevin Jones and Johnny
Oh
Holden last
Lord,
year.
yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, and Brooks James just got released, I think. So poor one out for Tony Brooks James. I think the Vikings cut him. Let's see here. Jamal Curtis, do you think Deontay, James Washington have potential to go into 1,400-yard seasons like Juju did, or will they always border around 1,000? Juju just seems more dynamic to me. I think Deontay has the potential for that, not this season, but just long term if you look at his ceiling. Washington probably less so because he's that vertical Z type that just won't see the volume of targets and receptions necessary to have 1,400-yard type seasons where you have to be around 100 catches to even entertain that idea, and he's not going to be in that range because it's just not his style of a feast or famine type guy downfield. But Deontay, I think potentially 2-3 years from now, he could be in that range if all goes well.
Yeah, I think, and if for some reason you were to have, let's say more than one 1,000-yard receiver this year for the Steelers, I think it's Juju and Deontay.
Yeah.
I think Deontay's ceiling's around 11 or 12, maybe at most this year. I would kind of pencil them in right, maybe under 1,000 yards, but I think a
hmm
thousand is possible for him, and all because look, I mean, we expect hopefully we expect the offense not to have to go 75 yards every drive too.
Right.
So hopefully that's the case, and you're not having to have receivers have 1,800-yard seasons. On top of it there. But yeah, I don't like the chances of Washington having 1,000-yard season. I think if anybody, if you're going to have one or two do it this year, obviously Juju because he's done it before, and put maybe Deontay. I think those would be your two.
I'm with you. K. Jackson, Pittsburgh. If you had to speculate at this point, what player from the 2019 roster will be replaced by a rookie or undrafted player from 2020? Dave, I'll let you start this one.
Say again.
If you had to speculate, what player from the 2019 roster, so someone from last year with the team now, will be replaced by a rookie or undrafted player from this year's class? So who's getting bumped off?
Oh, wow.
I think it's tough because it's just these rookies, these undrafted free agents have such a tough path this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough, really, for any of these. Barring injuries, it's going to be tough for I think for any of these UDFA's to make it. You
And they're
know,
already down to like 6 of the original 10, so half the
right?
40% is already gone. I mean, you could really stretch it and say like Antoine Brooks bumping off Marcus Allen, even though he was barely on the roster last season, had like 3 total snaps. So you could stretch it and do that, but I don't think there's a real obvious name.
Yeah, I mean,
Like you said,
I
like Claypool bumping off Deion Kane.
yeah, it would be tough. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, but he's talking about undrafted, well, or
Well, he
rookie,
said
actually. Yeah,
rookie
yeah.
or undrafted. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Claypool's going to make this 53,
Right.
so
Right.
or
It's tough.
unless and really, I mean, you don't really have another rookie receiver to potentially bump Kane if you're keeping six,
Right. Well, I'm saying
So
if they would keep 5 in that scenario,
okay,
Claypool and
yeah, yeah,
Switzer.
that would probably be the only way. I mean, once again, it's yeah, if a undrafted free agent makes this 53, then probably something's happened.
Right, so yeah, something not good has occurred if
Right.
that's the case for sure. Let's see, Richard Hudspeth, knock on wood. If Ben goes down for the year, are we just packing it in with so many players leaving next year, or would they try to make a move? Again, like well, I mean, obviously they traded for Minka last year when Ben went down, and that was a short-term move and a long-term move. So I don't know if you'd be buying in the short term if Ben were to go down, but they're not going to pack it in. They didn't pack it in last year in both play and aggressiveness and trading either with the addition of Minka Fitzpatrick. So as much as that would suck, they would not pack it in, so to speak.
Yeah, and who would you trade for? I mean, any quarterback with any salary, you're probably not going to be able to afford anyway.
Right, right.
I mean,
Joseph.
you would probably have to look to some, if you were look, they would move forward with Mason first and foremost, and
Mhm.
then, then if you obviously didn't like what you saw a couple weeks after that, then they'd have to go out on the street and get
Yeah,
somebody.
well, by then the deadline's probably passed.
Right.
But anyway, Joseph Fallen, do you think Ben will play at 40? So that puts him, what, 2 years from now? I like the odds more and more based on what Ben has said recently and just talking about wanting to win Lombardies and playing years and how good he feels and all that. Again, how he feels throughout the regular season is the biggest factor, and really have to table that conversation until after the season. But I'm more optimistic about him potentially signing another contract past 2021 than I was maybe a couple months ago.
Yeah, especially with what he said just a couple weeks ago there.
Hmm.
And once again, that decision does not need to be made until late February at the earliest.
Right.
So, we could speculate all we want about it. I mean, I like the chances, but obviously it's going to depend on how he plays and how his arm feels coming out of the season there. But I have a feeling we're going to get our answer by the end of February.
I do too. K Jackson, do you believe the Steelers will allow fans for home games in 2020? Will any NFL team have fans? Well, I think the Chiefs, as Richard points out, and the Ravens have both said there's going to be fans, but at very much reduced capacity. Chiefs at 22%. I think the Ravens are capped at like 7,500. Have not heard anything from the Steelers on that yet. My guess is they will have fans at a very reduced capacity in that 5 to 10,000 range, just because relative to other places around the country, at least the case numbers of COVID have been pretty low in the Pittsburgh area. So maybe I'm being a little wishful thinking here. I think there will be fans. It will just be a very small number of fans, similar to Baltimore.
I hope your wish comes true. And in the meantime, everybody get on the NFLshop.com and buy like 18 jerseys and a couple signed helmets and all because the NFL really needs that fan revenue to come in to help the cap next year.
Yeah, for sure. Russ is talking about drama. He says, I'm confused because checking different websites, not seeing any drama. I don't know what that's in reference to, Russ.
Oh,
There's
no.
not been any drama that I'm aware of, unless you're talking about like Juju Hayward contract stuff. But I mean, I don't think that's drama in Pittsburgh land right now.
Yeah, I don't
Uh,
know what I mean. The heck, this has probably been the most drama-free offseason in when
for a couple of
a
years, only
while.
only because there was no off season. That's what it took, I
Yeah.
guess, a pandemic. Unless I missed something, I'll go back and check after the stream. Russ, Jamal Curtis, will teams be better against Lamar Ravens rush offense now that they've seen it for a full season? I know you're still more of the skeptic of Lamar than I am. I think certainly teams will have the opportunity to plan, but the Ravens, of course, can plan back. There's always that ongoing chess game. So I think Lamar is the real deal. Ravens offense is still going to be among the most potent in football.
Don't forget in that one game that the Steelers played against Lamar last year, they did a damn good job about it.
They did.
A lot of people gonna be looking at that tape. The biggest thing that you if you're going to play a lot of man against Lamar, that's going to have a lot of backs in the secondary turned, and that's when that guy can crush you with the feet and all. So
Hmm.
I think more than anything, you want him to stay in that pocket as best as you can and make him make, even though look, he was good with his arm, really good with his arm last year, but that's the way I want him to beat me. I want him to have to beat me down the field with his arm. End of story.
The tough part is what you referenced, though, because the Steelers in particular are now such a man coverage heavy team that it's harder to play man coverage against those mobile quarterbacks, and they're facing a ton of those with Baker, Lamar, and Burrow in the AFC North alone. Because when you play man coverage, your face is away from the ball, your head's away from the ball, so you can't see if the quarterback takes off. You're late to react, as opposed to zone defense when you have eyes on the football. So that's the dilemma that this new Steelers man coverage defense has with those athletic quarterbacks. Although, as you pointed out, they seem to do a pretty good job of it last year. A couple more questions before we wrap up the stream. Rob Coe asks a good one. Under over Claypool matching Martavis Bryant's rookie year. 25 receptions, 21 yards per catch, and 8 touchdowns. Did Martavis really catch 8 touchdowns as a rookie?
Yeah, remember he
Wow.
just for those first couple
That
weeks, man.
Texans
He
game, he really
yeah,
exploded.
and
Yeah.
remember he didn't even get started until like week 8, 7 or
Yeah.
8, right? You
Right,
know.
right, right. Okay, so let's take it piece by piece. Claypool over under 25 receptions this year. It's
Oh
close. That's a good
wow,
number to pick.
that's a good number. That is a good number.
I'm gonna go over slightly.
Yeah, I'll go over slightly as well too because it just attrition. I think
Mhm.
the odds of a receiver maybe missing a game or two. And I look,
Right.
you later on in the season, you're probably going to get him a little bit more involved there and all. But I think it's going to be real close to that number, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I think the other two might be easier. 21 yards per catch over under.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to take the under on that, Alex.
Yeah, me too. I think some red zone jump balls will help bring that number down naturally too. When you have 3, 4 yard receptions and 8 touchdowns, I'm gonna go under on that one as well.
Yeah, but if he's going to make his mark, that's going to be how it's going to be. I think. I mean, this guy could end up being one of those guys for you that catches two balls a game or two passes a game and has two touchdowns occasionally.
Hmm.
Just because of the nature of how he's probably going to get used. Even so, uh, I just envision a lot of those touchdowns coming inside the red zone for him to hit that number, and I'm not sure he's going to hit 8. Can he
Yeah.
hit 5? Can he hit 6? Yeah, I think it's possible. I think barring some people missing some serious time, I just think that's pushing it a little bit
Mhm.
there.
8 just seems a little rich. Dallas Quinley, do you think this team will fly under the radar in the AFC, then come on hot in the playoffs? I think they're flying under the radar now, but if they play the way we think they're going to play, they won't fly under the radar for that much longer if they get off to a really good start this season, which I think and expect that they will. So in that standpoint, it's going to be hard for them to fly under the radar if they're 6-2, 8 games into the year, hypothetically.
I don't think if you take an objective, you assuming this team stays in the health that they are in right now, and that's probably asking a lot here over the next 4 weeks or whatnot. But I think if you objectively looked at this team and the experience only, along with the pedigree that they have on it. I don't see how you can pick against this team to at least not make the playoffs. Now, does that make them underrated? I mean, look, they're playing in a division where it was the number one seed in the AFC last year, for Christ's sake. So, how can you be underrated in that
Hmm.
aspect? So, uh, I don't think I think across the board they won't be underrated come the first week of the season. I think there'll be a team that several people predict to make the playoffs, and then obviously once you get into the tournament, whatever happens there. But as Alex and I have talked several times, and where we sit right now, it would be a huge disappointment if this team in its current form, 4 weeks from the start of the season, does not ultimately make the playoffs and at least win one or two playoff games.
It would be deeply disappointing. And it's hard to even explain how that would happen, but they found a way to do it the past 2 years with more explainable, in hindsight, injuries. Last year, of course, being the big issue there. Donald Nolan, Ben's salary is what's essentially dictating how many players we can keep next year. If Mason Duck are the starting quarterback next year, majority of starters return. Is it better for the team overall? I understand the angle you're taking with that, Donald, but no, it's not. You want Ben, you want number seven, unless he just looks like a shell of himself this year, which I don't think will be the case. You want your quarterback. You can fix everything else if you have Ben. You can't fix everything else if you don't have Ben, even if you're able to retain hypothetically Juju and Villanueva, etc.
He talks about his salary. Ben's only scheduled to make 19 million next year. People fail to recognize that it's not his salary. It's the past prorations of
Hmm.
restructures that the Steelers have done that have caused all this. It's not Ben's salary. It's not Ben's fault that he has a 41.25 cap number in 2021. He is scheduled to earn only $19 million, like I said, in 2021. So, look, even if you cut Ben before his roster bonus is due, you save $19 million in cap space, period.
Yeah, not as much as people think. I think that's a great point to harp on and to make people realize that it's not you're not saving $41 million by cutting Ben. Just not happening.
No, you got 20, you would have 22.25 million in dead money with him.
Hmm.
So you'd have more dead money than you would save in cap space with him. Now
Yeah.
obviously, look, if he can't play, he can't play, right?
Hmm.
That's the only way Ben is not on this team in 2021, is if he just can't play anymore, period. And the team would not be in a better position if that's the case.
Hmm.
So, in the end of story. But Duke, none of this is Ben's fault. Ben signed a fair market value deal on his last extension, and he's only scheduled to make $19 million in 2021.
Yeah, so if Ben's not here, you got a bunch of dead money, and you don't have Ben. Your team is objectively not better than it is right now. I'll tell you that much. Reds faithful, do you think the Steelers have a Super Bowl roster this season? I do. I think they have the roster to compete, assuming good health. And there've been so many frustrations, and you feel like every year you sit there and say this is the roster they can do it. This might be your best chance too, because bouncing off that last question that Donald asked, this roster will look a lot different next year. This roster will be worse, even assuming Ben plays well, because you're going to be losing so many guys. So this is the roster to do it, no question about it.
They're going to have a better chance this year to win it all, a lot better chance to win it all this year than they will next season, for sure.
Amen. Amen. Last question here from Russ Obenstein. Guys, do you think we can get Barry replaced? Don't hold your breath. I got every camp. I get asked about that. Don't think it's happening. I know they got a punter, Corliss Waitman, in camp right now. Don't think he'd be the guy to replace Barry. It'd be someone else that's a free agent, someone that gets cut. But I think Barry is going to be the guy. He had a very good first 3 months last year, very poor last month of the season. But they like his hang time. They like his placement, his holding for Boswell. Barry's going to be your punter in 2020.
I think so too, barring injury or something, or just him really having a bad camp moving forward, and really how you going to, I guess you could simulate it as best as you can, but uh, you might get in a situation 4 weeks into the season, maybe, if he struggles where you have to part ways with him. But barring an injury, I just don't see how he's not your punter, at least to start the season.
Right, right. All right, that's gonna wrap up the live stream. There was a couple questions we didn't get a chance to address, but you guys can feel free to come back next week and ask those. Dave and I have the live stream going every Monday from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you guys so much for asking great questions, being here in the chat. Dave and I really appreciate it. Dave, as always, thank you for being here.
Yeah, we got the podcast tomorrow. We'll get back talking about several of these things on the Tuesday Terrible podcast. Please check out the site SteelersDepot.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex at Alex underscore Kozora as well too. And thanks for everybody for joining us tonight. Peace and love.
And you can see an archive of this on Steelers Depot or on my YouTube channel or wherever you listen to the Terrible Podcast. Dave is also archiving it. Again, we'll have the podcast on the show tomorrow for Steelers Depot. And be sure to like us on Facebook as well over on Steelers Depot. Just type it into Facebook and you'll find us there. So thank you guys so much for watching, asking questions, and we'll talk to you soon.